Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching Win Edition. I got to say it now, Justin, because we didn't really have to say it for the large part of 2023, and then we didn't really remember to say it for the sparing wins that we were able to pull in 24 and 25, and in 2026. We're new men now. We have to celebrate the wins, even if they don't come easy, Justin, because this one was not easy on the eye. But hey, you get the 3 points.
That's all you need, Jake. We obviously, I think it was Soccer Zombie put like a video at the end, and like it was like them celebrating at the minute that it happened, and like the last second right before he cuts off, he's like, "We didn't deserve it, but F it," and I'm like, "Yeah, that is truly how I was feeling in this." And so that encapsulated it perfectly. But Jake, it's a long season, and you're going to get some of those. I would say we're going to have plenty as well where we do deserve it, or we already did this season and we didn't get the full 3 points. So water finds its level. I feel like I've been obsessed with saying that recently, but that's kind of a positive for us right now.
Certainly. No, I would say so as well. And I'm going to just throw it straight in here, Justin. We have a lot to talk about today. In a short time, we got Colorado recap coming up, and then LAFC. And guys, this is 5 games in 14 days. So you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot from us, but we're going to focus on LAFC as the upcoming match today, even though we do have one on the weekend against DC. But my retweet delete, Justin, I'm just going to get out of the way because I think it'll segue us nicely into the Hoffman Brothers starting 11 and the recap. But you know what? I wish I had a nice plate of crow out here, because I think we'd both be indulging in a little bit of the Orozco banter from last season. Him being deployed kind of across the back four, but mostly out wide at the fullback position, and the crap that not only we but many would give him. And again, not in an unhealthy way. We weren't like battering him online, but just critical of what he was contributing to the team and what performances he put out there. What he's doing at right center back is not something that can be ignored for casual fans, the analysts alike. Orozco's putting in a hell of a performance this season. He's been by far and away our best defender. We missed him when he was out for those concussion related symptoms, and him stepping back in, Justin, it's a breath of fresh air. I mean, he just comes back in, straight out of the cold, hasn't played in the last couple of weeks, and immediately, again, elevates this team. What he can do on the ball, as well as just the IQ that he has in defense, I think we might have found a home for him. And Justin, he's 21. He's only on contract for us to the end of the season, so you're going to have to start looking at extending that as well. We didn't really pay much of anything to acquire him and his talent. So it's ironic. We have a 30-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 21-year-old in our back line. And the 21-year-old is, I think, scores ahead of his peers.
It's insane, Jake. I'm going to give a shout out to Chat City Tactics, Mike, and then also Soccer STL. But the card that we're sharing right now and sharing screens on, Orozco's numbers are incredible, obviously. And the only thing that's red here is shooting. And that's the last guy I need shooting the ball anyways. I would say, yes, he needs to be getting up and down the field in his position, but not as much as like a far right wing back. You're still the right center back, so I don't think he really needs to be doing that much. But when you're looking at this and his progression in this season, and not only that, Jake, but it's not easy to come off of an injury with the concussion protocol that he was under, and then just come right back in and just not skip a beat. There are multiple plays, and we'll share screens later, that I would say the vision on the field is what I'm most impressed with, Jake. And it's not just when he has the ball at his feet, but it's the positioning when he's off the ball as well. So yeah, I'm with you on the retweet, whatever we want to call it. This man has been a saving grace at not an easy position in a brand new formation. And as such a young kid, is extremely impressive.
I think this is the one story we have right now, Justin, that is a positive on the 2026 season from a player development perspective. I wouldn't say you look at anyone really else in our team and say, wow, they've really come a long way since last season. They've really gotten better, like materially better. He's the only guy, which is a problem. But we are experiencing the benefit of that as he joined the 11 here. So Hoffman Brothers starting 11 for this match. Shout out to Hoffman Brothers, our presenting sponsor for 2026 and for years past. Now we're working together. Want to talk about water quality today, folks. You all know it. You drink it. It's everywhere. It's so important and so vital. If you see any sort of issues or like maybe white residuals in your sinks, on your dishes, on your shower head, it means you could have some hard water. And you should call our friends at Hoffman Brothers to make sure to come over. They'll do a water quality test and help you kind of see this all through. It's not uncommon. It's actually very common for folks to kind of see this. So if you ever notice those sort of spots, those white spots or residuals on your dishware or your sinks, whatnot, think of the services that Hoffman Brothers can provide you, because they can address that with you and hand in hand get you over the line and get you your water back to clean, quality stuff. And Justin, I was stoked to see the clean, quality composure from Sang Bin. I don't want to jump that far ahead yet, but he was a surprise to see it entered in this 11. And Justin, I think we were just overall a little bit probably negative to start as you saw this 11 rolled out, because we thought we had found an equation of players that worked pretty well in that U.S. Open Cup round of 16 match against Chicago, where we saw them out, and again, it wasn't our best performance, but we saw some good stuff. And then you kind of see a reversion back to times before, where, you're still seeing Pulvara strolled out every match. You're still seeing Baumgartel. You got Betcher back at the 9 here. But Sang Bin was the one, I feel like, X factor that kind of entered. And you're like, okay, I wonder what this is for.
And he needed to, Jake. I think this is one where we've talked about it. That's been the one rotating door or revolving door of a position that is that bottom right of that triangle that no one has really kind of owned. I think it was Sang Bin to start the season. Then you had a little bit of a Celio. Then you had a little bit of a Cordova. And then with Celio going down, it's mainly been Cordova and a rotation there, maybe a little bit of Toy Shirt. But ultimately, Sang Bin was the one that had that kind of spot to start the season. And he kind of let it go. And I think when you get on there and you got to show the chances that you have, kind of want to give him the same flowers I give Orozco. It's nerve-wracking, right? When you see your name, you're like, now it's my turn, and I've been working so hard for this. And you would think that these guys are like, yeah, it's my turn, I'm going to take it. But like, that every touch is going to be analyzed because that it's so many people that could be taking that spot. So yes, an incredible run by him, and we'll share screens on it here in a bit. But and also a nice flick by Betcher to get him in. And again, another hockey assist or goalie assist by Mr. Roman Berkey. So we'll take 2 on the season out of him. And you know what? I think it's one where it could work out more, but I still don't know if that's the 11 that I really want to see, Jake.
No, I don't think so necessarily either. But you do got to give DeMay his credit too for giving him that spot start and him providing reaping the reward of that trust from the manager. But yeah, I think Sang Bin, the writing was on the wall from the beginning of this match, because we clearly were looking to go vertical pretty quickly and from deeper positions like Berkey, from our center backs and defensive kind of minded players going over the top. And the wind was a huge factor in this match. But you immediately saw the threat we were carrying, kind of just asking questions of Colorado's back line and forcing their young goalkeeper, who was starting in place of Zach Steffen, to kind of field some higher pressure situations outside the box where things get a little bit touchy between defenders and the goalkeeper when the communication isn't spot on. And we kind of, I feel like, used the wind and used the beginning of the game to kind of, show a little display of what we can do when we go direct as well, which we haven't been doing a ton of this season in terms of relying on it. But it was good to see that we have that as well. And Sang Bin, call it what it is the perfect guy for that. He's a guy, be the fastest guy in the team. And he was absolutely causing problems.
Yes, he was, Jake. And I think it's one I want to remind people that everybody probably saw the wind on TV, but you really don't truly understand it until you get out there and you try to play with it. Like, yeah, you can stand there, but then imagine trying to kick a round soccer ball into this wind, or if you're Colorado in that first half, trying to hold up any ball over the top. It's virtually impossible with the winds that they were seeing. And that's why Colorado had 6 corners in the first half. And that shows you it's like, yeah, we were trying to get out of our own half, but they were just saying, hey, we're just going to keep batting you down until we try to break the doors down. But guess what, Jake? It ultimately did not happen until we scored first. And then obviously they did not score. But on this one, Jake, I'll share screens. I'm a big fan of this because I think it shows a little bit more growth out of this team as well. I'm always for trying to play out of the back, right? But when you have 3 Colorado attackers on the top of our 18, another one just 10 yards further, and we have 3 of our center backs there, that's what you're looking to do, is pull them forward. You don't then have to say, well, we have to play out of the back. Let's try to get around this. No, if you're Roman Berkey, take this long, find the guy that would usually be Klaus, and look at that low-driven ball, Jake. That's the key here, is because if that thing goes even 5 yards higher, it balloons and falls straight down. So him driving this low into Simon Betcher, getting your body in front of the guy, and we don't need you to try to bring this down and hold it up. Just get a little chest to it or a little head to it, a little flick into Sang Bin. And Jake, this is the most impressive part to me right here. What happened last week when we were talking about Hartel going up on this, and he even had Simon Betcher to his left. The composure from Sang Bin, not only is it, one, dribble faster than the defense to create the space to not worry about the guy nipping at your heels, but then also, two, not to just try to shoot this on a massive goalkeeper, taking the touch to the left, beating him, and then having the composure to finish with your left right down central in the goal. It was ultimately an awesome goal, and it was great to see it happen for Sang Bin.
And don't forget, I mean, Sang Bin is also very young as well. So it's not like, you can imply like, oh, that veteran mindset. He's been there before a ton. He's 24. So he's the youngest guy of that attacking kind of trio of him, Hartel, and Betcher. But what a moment for him. You got to be so happy for him in this. By the way, it was our second goal scored in the first half of this whole MLS campaign so far. It was kind of a copy paste from the FC Tulsa game, if I remember correctly, when I think Berkey got the actual assist, the main assist to Sang Ben on a very similar play. So you can tell this is something they practice, right? I mean, he is lightning, absolute lightning in a bottle on that wing, and it's hard to stunt that runner because he is powerful when he gets going. But again, yeah, you said it right. The composure, Justin, it's killed us all season. Just getting into the right moments and the right spots, but not being able to deliver and see it all the way through. Sang Ben said, "Nah, I got this one." So really, really happy for him. And I don't think this was like a result of a long time coming for us, or that we really necessarily like deserved it because we were really fighting tooth and nail. But you get the goal, you go up. And, there was a couple other moments I saw earlier in that first half, Justin. I saw Polvara with the ball at his feet, dribbling through midfield. He earned a yellow card on a nice run I saw from him. It's nice to see him get a little more forward, which I thought, or at least I feel like we all thought he might tend to do a little bit more of, given midfield is where he's kind of earned his keep. But I do feel like Colorado slowly started to kind of come around in this match. We not that we didn't have any life, because there were some moments we can talk about, but Colorado, I feel like slowly sort of kind of take the foothold from us and bring a defensive shape that kind of frustrated us. And we didn't do ourselves many favors either on the defensive end. I feel like we just had some tough lapses and passes.
No, and that's one I do want to share. I would say this is probably just a wrong footing by Orozco, but ultimately it still shouldn't have been that great of a chance for them. But the one thing I want to call out on this one before we hit play here is here's Orozco. He kind of did a lunge, tried to take the ball back, and then ultimately he gets kind of spun around here and the ball taken from him. But right here, this is Durkin and Edelman again, Jake. And I want to call this out because here's another 20 yards of space between our center backs and our center defensive mids. And as we play this out, Jake, we are lucky that this guy tried to take it all himself, because right here, what is this? Probably like a 20 to 30 yard circle of a Colorado attacker at the top of the D, at the top of our 18. Should have been an easy layoff. And then it's 1v1 with him and Berkey as Polvara's kind of chasing down the other attacker here. This guy cuts it back, and then he tries to rip it right here on Baumgartel. Imagine if he just does a little slip right into this space. And that is where Edelman and Durkin need to be. As center backs, you have Baumgartel on the ball. You have Polvara having the other guy. If there's another layer of attack coming, that's where our center defensive mids need to be. And again, we're just caught up too high up the field. And I don't understand what we're going to do to try to fix this, because we are extremely lucky that they just missed this chance. Jake, this was 4 minutes after we scored our goal. Yeah. That would take all of the wind out of our sails and put us right back into a draw position with them, which ultimately went on the road. It's almost like a losing position. When you're going into halftime, you thought you have a little bit of life there, and then you just give it away 5 minutes later. So again, it's one of those where I think from a rest defense perspective, I don't understand when we're going to have either Edelman or Durkin know that one of them two need to be holding in front of our center backs at all times.
Yeah, you got to put that on net for the Colorado. I think it was Manugo. And by the way, he was causing serious issues down our right. I mean, he basically changed Wallam's position in this game. I mean, he had to sit way deeper just to kind of respect the quality that he brought. So, it was not pretty at all times. But again, you exit that first half, lucky to still be ahead on this one. But you take the Sang Ben chance out of it, Justin. That was 0.94 XG, by the way. Sang Ben's chance was. We had 1.02 exiting the first half. So we were pretty much a visitor or anonymous outside of that from an attack perspective. But it's not like Colorado was banging our door down either. They had only one shot on target as well and 0.3 expected goals. So both teams coming out, wanting to probably assert themselves a little bit better in the second half. And there was definitely some bigger numbers put out in the second half. And I think for me, it really swings, and the game itself almost gets decided by what happens in the denial of goal scoring opportunity call that Betcher draws on Rob Holding early on. I think in the 50, let me get there because this is most of the second half. Yeah, the 51st minute, Simon Betcher draws this, and it's nice to be on the good side of these calls because it just is. But as a casual or as someone that likes to also try to be a little bit, fair and non-biased in certain points, that's a tough call, man. That is, if that was us, I would have been really, really upset. I know that there are certain laws in the game, and we've called on some people like George Gansler that know what they're talking about. But Justin, what was your take here? I thought they were going to turn this around. It didn't look material to me.
I was absolutely shocked that one, they even called a foul, and then two, went straight to the red. So yes, we did. We sent out the bat signal for George Gansner because Jake, when you put this in the doc, I'm like, what is a dog? So I didn't really know what it was at first, but yeah. So what George sent to us as well, he goes, and for anybody watching visual, I'll kind of play through it. But the ball gets played over top, and this is Simon Betcher fighting to get past the defender, and ultimately gets taken down, which is then the goal scoring opportunity. But here's what George had to say, what I thought was really interesting was this is a challenging one, to be fair. There's clear elements of dog so, a number of defenders, distance to goal, arguably the direction. However, there's no clear control of the ball yet, which makes me wonder how you can give a red card for denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity, dog so, when the forward doesn't have control of the ball and the ball is coming across the plane of the forward's direction and movement. Once again, I don't think VAR can overturn this because it's an opinion on whether the forward would have settled the ball and had a good enough first touch to potentially score. He said there is an assumption to the extent of this level that it would have been a good first touch, but still. And I agree with George there. It's like, if you think it's going to play out and you think that Simon Betcher is going to get on the end of it, then yeah, he's likely in for a breakaway here, but he wasn't at that point, and that's what really makes it a tough red.
Yeah, and you know, I want to take a step out of the controversy too to say I think it's a great analysis, and it lets you kind of behind the curtain as to, you know, there's almost like two things for any one of these calls, right? It's the call on the field, and then do you have clear and obvious evidence, like actual factual observations, objective data to say that that was the wrong call? You don't have to prove that that was the right call. You have to prove that was the wrong call. That's the onus on VAR. People, I think, just kind of need to remind that sometimes. But I also want to give credit to Simon Betcher, occupying defenders. Like, you got to be in the right position. You got to jockey. You got to fight. And yes, we all probably kind of think that that spins our way, and that's great. We're so happy about it, and it changes the complexion of the game, and maybe things would be different otherwise. But Simon Betcher, love him, hate him, you do that thing. That's the thing that he does best is jockey and be physical. And yes, people might get frustrated sometimes when they might perceive as simulation or sort of the gamesmanship. But I do want to give credit where credit's due. Like, this guy is way smaller than Rob Holding, but he plays big and he draws that, and it turns the game. I will say it turns the game in sort of the narrative. But despite the lost man for Colorado, Justin, I feel like the tempo became a little bit frantic as I think both teams then tried to adjust their team structure to kind of adjust for the deficit in the man. Ultimately, we also decided we're going to get a red card too, and we'll talk about that. But another thing I wanted to point out, Justin, as we move along in this game is Roman Berkey, didn't have a whole lot to do on the saves department. We already talked about his hockey assist, the secondary assist on the goal from Sangbin. But that distribution, that earned him, if you want to give a 1 out of 10, like that to me that's an 8-9 performance, because he was a driving force in our attack, and his 60-yard just moonrakers against the wind, with the wind, the right pace, like it was hard to put a foot wrong, and distribution for him became a really significant proportion of this game of, I feel like, what was actually driving us forward, because we just weren't clicking.
No, exactly, Jake. And I think it's one that's where you're happy to have a guy like a sweeper keeper like Rome, not only to clean things up defensively, but also be able to have the ability to play those long balls, because that is not something you should know as a goalkeeper. That's not easy. The amount of times that you've been trying to work on those side volleys with TK and work your way up, like, obviously once you get a professional level, you think more of these guys have it, but it does fall off when you're trying to focus mostly on shot stopping. But Jake, the one I want to call out here, Polvara, if anything, this gives you an idea of what the wind was like. Look at where he's at. He's at our 6-yard box extended. Watch him take this ball down. Love that he gets the head up. Just doesn't even take a step, but then just launches this ball. Jake, this thing goes 95 yards. And I'm not kidding. This is at the 6 of ours. Watch how far this goes. It lands 15 yards into their half. And he doesn't even catch up to it right here, McSorley, until the 18. So that is a 90-yard ball by Polvara without even taking a run up to it. And this was, in my opinion, Jake, this was our best chance of the game. This is great by McSorley, holding it up, tries to then drop it off to Hartel here. Would have loved a one-time flick. He takes it and tries to beat the defender and cut it back across and then off the post. And that one, I just think that we had a great chance to try to finish there. And I don't know. It was Betcher that held it up, which I really appreciate. McSorley, it gets on the end of it. But again, that's what you're talking about with some of these long balls. If we're starting to figure out that if this team is pressing high, trying to get a goal, at some point just release pressure. We have some of these fit guys that are coming in off the bench, fresh legs. And if it was, Simon Betcher gets on the end of it because of his size, but then you have McSorley that's streaking down the other side that came in at halftime. I think it's a great way to try to switch things up. And yeah, people are like, that's not soccer, that's long ball. But if the other team is pressing you that high, release it, especially when you have the wind at your back.
Yeah, and we didn't show it. I don't even know if there was in the highlights, but Betcher had missed that cutback right before that chance too. So again, talk about short-term memory. Good for him to just shake that off and then drive this ball forward, open up another lane for Hartel and McSorley in this case to get involved. You don't want to see two more of those flub though, man. I mean, like I know we got one from saying Ben, and that was great, but those are, I think at least one of those was called a big chance for us, and big chances miss is just killing us this season, and we cannot continue to keep missing those. So yeah, McSorley, the angle gets pretty tight, but hey, man, this is your thing, right? Like you're the goal scorer guy. You got to finish that. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but we have to do better. Like 1-0 win, great. On the road, great. First one in Colorado, great. But still reminiscing on similar things that have killed us. Let's get to this final one here, Justin, is, I'll go ahead of it before we come back to it, but we saw this out. It was a bend, don't break mentality. It was not comfortable. We did not look very sure of ourselves defending in those final minutes of the match, but you get away with it. And I do want to give the team credit, resilience overall, especially when you have seen and felt what Durkin did in picking up 2 yellows in quick successive fashion. Very, very, challenges to me that just were not worth the yellow cards either. Almost, Justin, I don't know what you think, borderline scripty. Like the second one especially just looked like, bro, what are you doing? Like you just got a yellow. Why would you do that? And that's why I thought, with the whole suspension rules, because Durkin had technically 3 entering this match. He had 4 actually, but 3 because of the good behavior where they take 1 away. And if you get 5, you get suspended for a match. So he got, up to 5 now yellow cards that actually count in that count. And you'd think that he'd be suspended for that as well. But he also got the red card. And I don't know if they allow like stacking, like those two things both causing a 2 game. I haven't seen anyone confirm or deny yet. So that's open on the theory yet. But Justin, talk me through the nature of what are you thinking here?
I mean, the first one, and I want to go back to what you said, and you're like, they weren't deserving. And what you're saying is that they're not worth the yellow card. He deserved them. Like they were both the first one was just a lazy tackle. I don't even think it's worth showing, where there was 3 defenders. He was the 3rd defender around 1 Colorado attacker, and he just doesn't move his feet and just sticks his leg out. Literally just chops the guy down with his leg. Sure, take the yellow, fine. Also, in my opinion, though, that's 35 yards out from the goal. And that is in the 85th minute. And that one just is frustrating to me because then you're putting them in a goal scoring opportunity. The next one makes absolutely 0 sense to me. And this is one we're going to share screens on because it's the most frustrating because obviously it's the one that gets in the red. Here's Orozco. Again, I'm cool with you going long here, man. Like, look at how compact it is. You have 1 Colorado attacker or defender in this case around each of our city players. Don't try to pass out of this, lose it. And then also Baumgartel. You're 40 yards behind, man. Step up in case he does lose it because you're keeping everybody on side. But that's a different problem. Orozco goes long here. Doesn't go that long. Tries to switch fields. That's fine. The defender, though, steps up for Colorado. Takes a nice touch. Then he gets it to the midfielder. Here's Chris Durkin. 1, I appreciate you trying to close this down. But the fact that you are blurry in this means you're going too fast already, man. Like, the thing is, Jake, I think he realized that with this next touch, if the guy even decided to dribble, he was already beat because he's trying to close this gap too quickly. And there's just no need for it. And as this guy takes a touch, it's a good touch. It's not that far away from him. Chris Durkin, again, blurred, 10 yards away from this guy. He's coming in reckless, which just makes absolutely no sense to me, Jake, because it was 70 seconds later. This was a reckless slide, and this was pointless, unprofessional, and very well could have cost us the game. This is in the 87th minute. How much stoppage time was there? Wasn't there like 5 or 8 minutes? There is still 10 to 15 minutes left in this game. And Durkin is coming in and saying, hey, I'm just okay with us being down a guy, taking this tackle extremely late. When you look at it was actually worse than what it looked live. The ball was completely away. And then ball's already 5 yards past him. I just do not understand it. I think it's been like kind of funny. You see on like Twitter, people kind of joke about like, oh, Durkin's getting yellow cards. And like city refs put out something like usually when we see Durkin walking around in the field before the games, like he's thinking about where he's going to get his next yellow. And like, I think it is funny to joke about it until it really hurts the team. And at this point, this was idiotic. And I would like to see him take a seat on the bench from a DeMay reprimand just as much as he will get from the MLS from a suspension of the red card and or the 5 yellow card accumulation.
Yeah, I almost want to like try to give him the benefit of the doubt, and like maybe he somehow in his mind, just through crazy, just being in the competitive mode, just forgot about the first one that he had gotten. Because if I'm him, I think the smart thing to do is where I think this was going is they're going to rest him at some point in this fixture congestion because he needs it. I mean, he's played now 948 minutes. Only Baumgartel, Berkey, Polvara, and Wallem have played more than him, and they just gave Edelman a load management day as well. So like he was due one. So why not just take your suspension right now, but don't get the red card and put us in the back foot for the rest of this game at the same time. So just kind of boneheaded, right? Like you got to improve that sort of discipline. We've seen the same thing from Wallem this year. We can't become a team that becomes a liability to ourselves and our teammates. And this is another kind of notch in that category. I don't want to see any more notches. It makes no sense to do that. And it made this game much more frantic and drama filled than it had to be. But you come out of that, Justin, again, let's cite the importance of this. We talked about all the themes already I wanted to hit on, but first away win of 2026, our first ever away win in Colorado. It was our second ever, like I said, goal in the first half of this season. So an early kind of goal, which we don't see a lot of with this team. So, there is definitely some positives to take away from it. And like, again, you win a game when you were not like at your swashbuckling self. You know what I mean? So that's two wins I can say that for this season where I just wasn't really that impressed at all with our performance. Like I feel like I could put many performances ahead of this one, but the results you'll take over that any day, especially on the road against Colorado. And we need the points right now. Believe it or not, this stretch of games could ultimately kind of decide our fate. Yeah, I know there's a lot more season on the other side of the World Cup, but what's coming up in these next 10 days with the rest of the matches that lead us into World Cup break, I ultimately think will give us a pulse or remove the pulse on what's after for us in the World Cup.
I don't think it will remove the pulse and that's just me being optimistic. But if you remember last show, we talked about can we get to 12 points for the World Cup, and that's winning 2 games. We said that we got to get Austin at home, and then can we steal one on the road versus DC or Colorado, and then LAFC is just kind of a bonus. Knowing we'll talk about it here, but they've had our number since inception. But in my opinion, I think that if we could try to get a little bit, couple points here, you get some momentum. Then what signings are we bringing in during the window? What are these guys doing to get a little bit healthier? Make sure that can we get Nostrock for a longer period of time, and then we have a little bit more rotation? Are we going to change things up to where now it's not like I want to say like a form thing when we talk about these center backs? Like when you're coming back off of 54 days without a true competitive game, can you start Fallu Fall more consistently? Can we get Mbake in that back line? Does it have to be Baumgartel or Polvara? Can you move Polvara up and get Dirk in the hell off the field? So there's a lot of different things that I think can change. And one of those, Jake, as I mentioned, Durkin off the field, it is not going to be a 2-game suspension. It is one. There is no kind of like stacking of those, but something we do need to be aware of now is I think it's every 3 then. So when he gets a total of 8, he is then suspended for 1 more game. And yes, if he goes 5 straight games without a yellow, then you reduce that number down by 1. Yeah, we're playing Monopoly here, trying to keep track of all these things. It's impossible later on in the year, to be honest. But he is only going to be out just for this upcoming game versus LAFC on Wednesday.
So around the league, some meaningful games also were played this weekend that didn't have us involved in them, of course. Portland absolutely pantsed Sporting, which is just, you love to see. I mean, they put up a touchdown on our friends out west, which is just awesome. I mean, again, unbelievable. 4-0 after 26 minutes. I mean, Kansas City is frankly a little bit lucky that Orlando is also in this league this year, because I don't think Orlando will be there very long. And Kansas City will kind of take the reins as the wooden spoon, just they're going to take it because both those teams have allowed over 30 goals so far this season, which makes us look so good. I feel like we've been leaky this season. And then I look at their count and I'm like, Jesus. I mean, that's double our goals.
You want to hear a fun fact about this? Ben Wright, I think he's a reporter out of Kansas City, but just a hilarious tweet that I read earlier. Sporting Kansas City has already conceded 32 goals in just 11 matches, giving up nearly 3 goals per match. They're currently on pace to concede 97 goals this season, which would shatter the MLS regular season record of 78 goals set by San Jose in 2024. Can you imagine if they give up over 80 goals in a 34-game regular season?
It's terrible. And Ben Wright can say that because Ben Wright is not a Sporting Kansas City guy. He's Nashville. They have a really cool site called 615. I think we've been on the pod before, Justin.
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry. I should have known that.
No, I don't want to throw him under the
right
bus.
away.
We don't want to associate him with those people.
Yeah.
We just
No,
don't.
we love other teams around us in sporting talking
Yeah.
shit on sporting. So
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. My bad, Ben.
Houston beat the brakes off of LAFC, which was not on my bingo card as well. 4-1 at home, LAFC. So very, very shocking. It's their worst ever home loss in all competitions. That's a 3-goal margin, just, I mean, unbelievable. It's just things that LAFC never sees.
No. The last time that they lost by 2 at home, Jake, was 2019 against Seattle in the conference finals. So they have never given up or never lost a game by 3. So that was a little Sunday night, little something I woke up to this morning. So when I was just like, which to be honest, I absolutely hate, because I'm like, all right, now you got, and we'll talk about it with LAFC, but now it's like they're coming off their worst loss. They're probably pissed off. They're coming in here. They played well before, but we'll kind of figure that part out. But then this last game was a fun one to watch. I was watching on Saturday afternoon. Again, I wish we had more day games. Inter Miami defeats Toronto 4-2 up in Toronto. Messi 2 goals and an assist. Miami has scored 4+ goals in 3 of their last 5 MLS matches. And this is one where you thought Toronto was coming back. There was a VAR possible for a PK in the 90th +4 would have put them down 1. They were down 4-0, I think, to start. So they were trying to make a comeback, but ultimately not to be.
Biggest performances on the league on the weekend. Messi had 2 goals and an assist against Toronto, up to 9 now goals tally on the season from MLS play. Kevin Kelsey from Cincinnati, 2 goals, 1 assist. Oh, sorry, he's on Portland. I'm thinking of a different player for Cincinnati. I can't remember his name right now. And then Sam Surridge continues his goal form for Nashville as he scored against DC United, and that gave him 8 in their last 7 matches. Justin, the boys abroad, former City alumni, are also still doing it. We talked about Big Sam last pod and him being, I think, the MVP or the Golden Boot of their cup competition in Austria for LASK. He's now got 4 goals in the last 10 days for his club and against some good teams in Rapid Vienna and RB Salzburg.
Yeah, that was wild to see. It's not just that he had a good run during that cup, but he's continuing it and scoring a goal in his last 2 games. But then shout out back to the boys back in the States that used to be a part of the team. Lucas Bartlett, fan favorite, DC United. He had a goal versus Nashville this past Saturday. And then Anthony Markinick, Minnesota United. He had a goal versus Austin on Sunday, assisted by Jaime Rodriguez, who now I'm seeing, Jake, that might have been the last game for Jaime Rodriguez. I need that. That is a weird signing because he is now, his contract runs out on June 30th, but now it seems like he's going to go join the Colombian national team and prep for the World Cup. So that was a little quick showing for him, and I feel like he was not on the field for very long, but he had 2 assists coming off the bench in the 66th minute, I think, yesterday. So a nice little splash for him in the MLS.
You got to show up, man. And so far, we have not really shown up in these bouts with LAFC. So you got to color that as a starting point when you talk about our matchup history with them, because we are 0-5-2 win-loss draw. We already played them this season away in LA on was it 3-4 day, where that Durkin goal, remember, they were on their clean sheet streak, but they hadn't allowed a goal yet in the season. We scored on a set piece that no one knew how that was overturned, it was call on the field. It was right. It was call on the field. So it couldn't get overturned by VAR because there wasn't enough clear and obvious evidence for it. But, this fixture, Justin, LAFC has 13 goals overall. In this, we have 2. But when you look at home, because that's where we're playing, right, Energizer Park on Wednesday, we are 0-2-1 against them all time. 0 goals we have scored. They have scored 5 on us. So this is a team that I don't think is in the best form right now. They're tired. They've been competing in CONCACAF Champions Cup, so they're across multiple fronts with travel as well. But they're sitting at 3rd in the West right now on 21 points, which I think you would take. 20 goals for, which is just slightly above average. 12 against, which I'll get to my fun stats, so actually I'll come back to that. But 12 goals against, it's not a lot. Let's just put that. It's 5th fewest in the MLS. Mark Dos Santos, MDS, is their coach. He is the successor for Cherundolo, who stepped back after last season. And Cherundolo had that kind of fast verticality, the things in LAFC for, just very quick and direct attacks. They can still do those things, but they've kind of shifted into a little bit more of a positional type of game where possession, again, they're not anemic to it anymore. Kind of like us in terms of narrative. They've taken steps forward to become a little more pragmatic on the ball. So they have a little more control. And I think that starts with a guy like Son. As much as I feel like, know him as, very, very quick, very decisive, very good in front of goal. He is kind of being used as like that false nine sometimes for them, or a deep lying number 10 to kind of drop into midfield and create overloads and combine with his teammates. So he's kind of being almost known more as the creator for them rather than the finisher, because they have a toy box up top. Let's just call it what it is.
Well, that's the tough part. It's like you're talking about Son, and he is their creator, and he leads the MLS in assists. But they also have Denny Mwanga and David Martinez on opposite wings here. And David Martinez has been a huge step up for them as well. And when we talk about this offensive prowess, Jake, it really does make sense that they kind of do struggle when teams sit in a low block, because when you think about the speed of Mwanga or the technical ability of Son, it's really line splitting passes. And so if we sit in a low block, which we cannot do because we cannot get Edelman and Durkin to stay in front of the back four, but if we did do that, it makes it more frustrating for these guys. And they start just ripping some long, like 25, 30-yard bangers, which I feel very comfortable in Roman Bricky saving. But they start to get a little frustrated in that sense, and then they can't really break it down. But defensively, completely different story for them.
I think you look at that Houston game last night as a blueprint for what you can do if you're St. Louis against them from a defensive perspective. They were caught open in transition multiple times last night. And that's a guy like Jack McGlynn on Houston, a good midfielder. The vision like Leuven has great sequencing, great pace on his passing. Just he's known for it. And he was put into the sword last night, almost at will on these open diagonals out to wingers that were in space behind the back line. I don't think you look at the center backs, Porteous, Segura being two of them for LAFC, that are guys that can really do well to keep up and respond quickly to pressure. They're definitely prone to some turnovers in some dangerous areas. And I also think set pieces are an opportunity against this team as well. They've shown a recent sort of tendency to kind of switch off on maybe like the second fade or the second ball of set pieces when it gets like recycled back out after a kind of a half clearance. And I think that could be a red flag, but a good thing for us when we think about what we could do to hurt them. Because last six, Justin, they're number 24 in this league. They're third overall in the West right now, but number 24 in just the last six, only winning one of those last six matches. And they've conceded every goal they've conceded this season in that same time frame. So it's a little leaky right now if you're LAFC, but again, they're also very tired.
Yeah, I would say they're just getting run through the ringer, and their coach, Dos Santos, he kind of just laid in to the media. I think like 2 weeks ago, he's like, I would love it. He literally said, I would like to meet the genius that makes this schedule for the regular season in the CONCACAF Champions League, which, yeah, fair point. But you know what? We're going to try to take it to you anyways. But Jake, you had a great point. They started the season with 6 clean sheets, and now they have kind of the wheels have fallen off. It was like they lost at Portland 2-1. And then they were at home for San Jose, and they let up 4. And we're like, oh, man, so this team can give up goals. And then you look at some other ones, and yes, they're going on. I'll talk about some of these away games that are more important because they're coming to us. But some of these other ones, Jake, they just played Toluca. They were at Toluca, and they dropped 4-0 as well. And then last night, they were at home and dropped 4 to Houston. So it's like, okay, can they come in here? But what are some of the key away games for them? They do have a 1-0 dub versus Minnesota, a 2-2 draw versus San Diego, and then we already mentioned the Houston one last night.
Yeah, and expected goals wise, they're just above average right now. Number 12 in the league on expected goals. They're obviously outperforming that because their goal output's been exceptional. And then on the expected goals against, they're outperforming that as well. And again, on a good side, right? So their expected goals are actually higher than their conceded goals, their actual goals against, by a fair margin as well, 0.44 on that, which we would kill for. On the halves perspective, if there's anything that really stands out to me, Justin, they're definitely a weaker team in the first half compared to second halves. They're a top 10 in second halves, but in the first half, they can be a bottom 10 team in terms of just points, right? If you just stopped and blew the whistle halfway through, that's what you'd be stuck with. We've mentioned all these guys already, Justin, but I want to talk about Lloris. But do you want to tell the folks a little bit more about Dennis or about Son and Martinez? I mean, basically the front three that I think, again, you could pick up and plop in many leagues, overseas as well, and these guys would have great results.
Yeah, I feel like we talk about it with Dennis quite a bit, but he deserves some respect. Number 99 on the team, 31-year-old French DP. He was born in France, but he supports the Gabonese national team. But the most insane stat that I was putting together, Jake, he has scored 20-plus goals in each of the last 3 seasons. In 2023, he led the MLS. 2024, he was only second behind Benteke. 2025, only second behind Messi. So he has a knack for goals. We talked about it. He's a guy that likes getting behind, has incredible pace, and a great finishing ability. 2025, he had 24 goals, 9 assists. Both of those led the team. 2026, he's off to another strong start with 5 goals and 4 assists. in his 11 games played. The one thing that worries me, Jake, is that he just missed Sunday night's match for a yellow card accumulation, which means he is absolutely fresh after coming off a long stint with the Champions Cup and the MLS regular season. So, yeah, a fresh Denny Bawanga is not something I like St. Louis facing.
He's a hold your breath type of player. If you're a defender, if you're a fan alike, everyone's like, oh God, here we go. Son, obviously, again, just a great, I wouldn't even call it like, this isn't Batman Robin. This is like just Batman. If anything, maybe David Martinez could be the Robin. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists this season. But Son, the fun fact on him is 8 assists on the whole season for LAFC, 0 goals. He had 9 in a very short stint and 9 full 90s last season. So not off the charts yet on the goal scoring front, but contributing still, which you will take. But Lloris, Justin, everyone was kind of talking really, really high praise for him during the whole clean sheet streak they had. I for one, I wasn't buying it. You know how I feel about this guy. I do not think he is that special. And I think he's starting to show it. I have a fun stat we'll get to down below with Lloris, but to me, he is an area of opportunity for us to exploit. I mean, letting up 4 bombs, you get 4, you get 4, you get 4, or clean sheets. It's like, which one are we going to get on Saturday? Sorry,
yeah,
Wednesday.
I will say, but Jake, you got to remind the people who Mr. Hugo Lloris is, coming from Tottenham Hotspur. He won the World Cup with France in 2022. So yeah, I agree. You can't just hang your hat on everything that he's done in the past, but he did start the season. He leads the MLS with 8 clean sheets. But to your point, the wheels have truly come off with this team and the amount of goals that they've been letting in. And it's not like they're missing a whole lot of guys. So they, Amin Bodri and Igor Jesus are both out with leg injuries as of the availability report on Sunday for them. So, yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm pretty sure both of those guys may start for them when they are back, but it doesn't mean that they can't be doing better than what they're doing with them right now.
So what do we do about this team? We've talked a lot about him. We've probably left some tidbits here and there, but Lloris, I think, is a gap for LAFC. I think if they had a higher echelon goalkeeper, I think this would be a even better of a contender of a team. I just think his metrics are starting to take a hit as he's starting to kind of regress back to the mean, or wherever his mean is, you think about your post-shot expected goals minus your goals against. That's starting to kind of come back to life for him. It's starting to dip back down to kind of normal territory. And I think this latest 6-run games is not maybe where he's at, but between the first sample of 6 and the next 6, probably somewhere right in the middle there. Again, I don't fear Lloris. If I'm Betcher, if I'm Hartel, I know that I can beat this guy, and he's proven that in the last couple matches. I think this is a team that also likes to get their fullbacks involved. Palencia, Hollings had 2 of those. They like to maraud forward. They like to contribute to attack and provide help in those overloads in the wings and free up guys like Martinez, guys like Bouanga to get isolated and go 1v1. Well, that's going to leave space in behind for our attackers. Sangbin, looking at you. Betcher, looking at you. What can you do to get in behind and take or occupy that space that gets left behind? Also, Justin, we talked about it already, but fatigue. I know that we are also feeling some level of fatigue as well. Not just the team, I'm sure you and I are as well. But the CONCACAF Champions Cup, those are tough games. I mean, games in Mexico against really, really tough crowds. That's emotional as well. So between the emotions and the physical elements, I do think they're kind of hampered coming into this one. Do they really want to hop on a flight to St. Louis after being in Mexico this time last week and then getting absolutely destroyed at home a couple days ago? Probably not. But I think it provides a good time to meet a team like this, but you can't let it slip.
No, I think it's a perfect time to meet a team like this. Like you said, they're coming off there, and maybe they're a little pissed off, but also there's a part of the locker room that's like, I'm tired. I don't really want to be going away right now, to your point. And then to be honest, Jake, I think they could be looking ahead a little bit. Then they have to go to Nashville 4 days later. If we were to talk about if they want to try to do a little rest or switch up after playing Sunday, Wednesday, would that be Saturday? So that's a quick turnaround to face a very difficult Nashville team. And then you got to go home and finish out the last game for the World Cup against Seattle. So this is not an easy stretch for them. I mean, take us out of it, but those last 2 games, they could be looking ahead on this already. But Jake, as we're starting to look ahead at it already, I pulled this up because I was very intrigued. I kind of forgot that I threw this story up there. If you remember when you said, if you're wondering if Cordova and Toyshirt's absences are their sale pre-contract related, both players, their deals are up in June. I put a story out there for the fans, and I said, who would you like to see sold by City? Either Toyshirt, Cordova, neither or both. And both was the winner. We had a couple hundred votes, both hit with 38%, then Cordova with 31%, and then neither and Toyshirt down between in the low teens. But Jake, that was a weird one to see. And I know it ended up saying that Cordova was illness, but did we get anything else out of the toy shirt and why he didn't make the squad?
Did not hear about Toy Shirt, which I want to back us up and bring us into the ball watching STL injury report. As we are talking about availability of our folks, we're talking about our partner and friend Rob Schmickens at the Schmickens Injury Law Firm. You guys know the gist. I mean, we get down, we talk down and dirty. I mean, it's real talk. We've all been in situations like this. I'm sure your family or friends have as well. When you're having some sort of personal injury and you feel like you're fighting an uphill battle against someone that has all the tools, all the time, all the resources, Rob will be in your corner to see this whole thing through with you and help navigate you on that journey. So he treats your case with the utmost sincerity, whether that's a car accident, workplace injury, slip and fall case, any type of personal injury claim, he will be in your corner fighting for you. And remember, you won't pay unless they win, and they guarantee that their fees will never be greater than your share of any recovery. So make sure you give Rob a call when you have any sort of personal injury scare, whether that's yourself or for a family or a friend, and mention that we sent you for a special discount on the attorney's fees. That's exclusive. I always mess this up. Exclusively available to our listeners. And remember, Rob Schmickens, no dives, no delays, just results, Justin. Yeah, the injury report wasn't.
I would say if you just also, not only do we love Rob as a personal fan, but just give him a call because he's a Spurs fan and they are struggling in the EPL. I'm going to give him a shout out right now. They are tied 1-1 with Leeds, Jake, and they are currently tied with West Ham for the relegation table. So say a prayer for Rob. Just reach out to the man and check in on your friends.
Yeah, you just got to pick better teams to follow, man, at that point. That's just, that is double dipping. But on the injury front, Justin, it seems like this Ostrak thing is really, really festering. It sounds like they have their arms around it in terms of how they're managing it, but he got some minutes in US Open Cup, and then we haven't seen him since then. He hasn't really made the squad either. So it sounds like what he's dealing with is a little more serious maybe than initially thought. They maybe had a couple setbacks since his operation. And don't really expect to see a whole lot of him before the World Cup. Maybe, if any, a cameo here or there. I think it would be helpful to have his profile back in the team to help bolster that midfield, which we have sorely needed depth in. And then questionable wise, we had Fall, Mbake Fall was out for some back spasms. Cordova obviously out with illness. And then you had Toy Shirt missing, Justin. I think, first of all, going back to the sell point, we actually won't be able to sell either of them because they're both up in contracts. So they can sign for free wherever they want to go. So there's nothing for us to really gain besides just clearing their salary off our books, which is a gain for sure. But the Toy Shirt thing, I think, is probably the more likely of the two. We've heard murmurings of Cordova being signed longer term here. So that's kind of in the back of my mind. But Toy Shirt, the minutes he's played this season, probably not going to miss him a whole lot. I do think he will be one that we've probably seen the last of.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part, Jake. It's like I agree because we haven't seen a whole lot from him, but we also haven't seen a whole lot just period of like not just from him, but really how much chance has he really given? The man's only played 234 minutes. So quick math, that is 2.5 matches out of the 11 that we've played. So that's a struggle for me, and I get it if you're especially if you're not planning to sign him long term and you're not trying to like bolster up his value by then selling him because you can't sell him. But that's the one where he was kind of lightning in a bottle in those first 5 or 6 games, and him, Betcher, and Hartel. So maybe I'm just hanging on to that a little bit too long. But yeah, I would agree with you. I don't know if we're going to be seeing a whole lot of him in these last couple games.
So, with that, you then I think start to kind of see how Cordova might make sense. Again, he would not be at that DP tag anymore. It would just be a senior roster spot. He'd probably just backfill Toy Shirt in terms of, again, not same profile and not the same player by any means, but it's probably a 1-for-1 type change there. From how much we've seen Cordova, I don't really believe they're really actually looking at selling him or getting rid of him when he's playing so much. Technically, this would be, 3 more games left on the docket for him to play for us, unless there's some sort of extension. So, Justin, that makes our lives all the more difficult in trying to parse together the predicted Hoffman Brothers starting 11.
All right,
how do you
Jake.
feel here?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, and you've seen it on some of the other social media accounts, is like they put at the bottom like, this is what I want for the starting 11. We have to like almost asterisk that because we just cannot keep up with what's actually going to happen. I'm going to try to go with what I think actually is going to happen. And I really do think that you can see Falu Fall hop straight into the starting lineup. And I think you can take out Polvara. I would say Jake I know we kind of joke about this, but like, how many minutes has Polvara played? Yeah, he's third on the team. So, like, if you want to give him a little bit of a break, that might be the spot to do it. Because I don't know. I guess you could swatch it. You could swap Falu for Baumgartel and put him in the middle. But I think I'd rather have a Falu fall out on the wing, just with a little bit. I don't want to say carelessness, but some of the passes that he tries to make is not someone I want making him out of the direct center back position. It's almost like if he makes a mistake out wide, we can still recover. So I'm going to go with Falu Fall, Baumgartel, Orozco on the back.
Yeah, I would love that as a back three. Would make a whole lot of sense. I think the back four ahead of them would be probably a lot of the similar phases, but I am going to drop Leuven back in this game. I'm going to bring Leuven into the midfield. Remember, Durkin is gone for this one, and we know how thin we are at this position. There's no Ostrak available, so I think Leuven would probably be there. Edelman next to him, and then Wallem outside right, and then I'll get up top, Justin. We can talk about what we think here, but Hartel obviously stays here. Sangbin, I think, had come off at halftime for some calf-related tightness he said he was experiencing. So honestly, no harm, no foul. If he felt something, let's get him off before he aggravates it and makes it a real injury. I do think he'll be ready to go for this one. And I think you reward him and say, you're right back up, buddy. We know this is a transition kind of frail type team, and you have the legs to provide for us. And I think if Cordova's illness has subsided, I think you throw him in here. And Justin, and my last comment I'll make is I think you should treat this 11, if you're DeMay, as the same exact 11 you should roll with next week on Tuesday. Because similar type vibe, both midweek games, both against good teams that you're going to need to have your best stuff for. And you probably will do some rotating at some point. So why not he loves continuity, right? We've talked about that consistency. Why don't you do that consistency in these two midweek games where you feel like they'll have enough rest? And maybe some of these guys start both, right? This weekend and this week. But I would like to see this 11 be the same 11 as next week, so we can really get our finger on the pulse of where are we at when we're playing what we think is our best available right now.
No, I actually really like that call out, because then when we look ahead, and then where are we at DC this weekend, right? Like at some point, it's like you got to pick and choose where you want to be, and obviously we need to be prioritizing that Open Cup matchup against Houston on Tuesday, coming back at home. So if you're going to prioritize that means you can't be prioritizing the Saturday game just 3 days prior. So that means you prioritize the LAFC game, and I like that, Jake. I would say the only thing that's kind of concerning me now is like we've had that rotating door spot. So if Sangbin's not good to go, do you start Cordova and Betcher at the same time? Because we just talked about how we don't think that Toy Shirt's going to be that spot. So who else would you throw there? Like now it seemed like it was a position where we just had like too many guys. And now we're kind of scrounging like, well, if Sangbin's hurt and we're going to end up not keeping Toy Shirt, so why play him? Now we're looking at really just like a Betcher and a Dova.
I would do anything to avoid Betcher Cordova. I would do Joyner in that Sangbin role. I mean, I would like that anyway because he should be playing right now. But obviously we've seen the resilience to not play him as much from DeMay. I would even take maybe Leuven playing there and maybe bringing Polvara up to the midfield as another option. He mentioned today Polvara could play more midfield minutes. So like you could kind of tinker a little bit, but it's pretty thin on the options front. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, you really hope Sangbin's around and available for this one. So that was my goal for the game, Justin, was with that lineup, treat this as a dress rehearsal for next Tuesday's, quarterfinal against Houston, because this, the timing wise, you're not gonna be able to play all your best players every single match these next, week or so. So you've got to be smart about how things go. And that doesn't mean you don't care about what happens in DC, but in terms of the games you care the most about, obviously quarterfinals number one. I would say LAFC, any home game you got to care more about as well. And especially against a team that's had your number. And then DC, you probably put third on that priority order. I mean, that's just what it is.
No, I agree. And Jake, I wanted to pull up the tweet that you quote tweeted today from Mr. Matthew Rocio. It was about with Durkin's suspension, what's next? And the quote was basically saying from DeMay saying, I like consistency. We've seen Miggy, we've seen Dante. Those two are options for the coming game. There's also some other potential options. He says Edu, and then he rounds it out with Toy Shirt being an option to fit there as well. But then to your point where you say, I like consistency as much as the next guy, but consistency without results can also be complacency. And I think that's very well put. 4 matches in 10 days, which now we're also knowing that it's 5 in 14 days. A little bit of growth and evolution in how DeMay views the City roster. So how much rotation are we going to be seeing? I agree with you that this game at home, showing the fans that they've been sticking with you, show them everything you got here, prioritize this, go out to DC, throw a solid B squad out there. Not all of them, but we can rotate a number of guys that could probably use some rest, trying to focus on Houston. And again, Jake, when we talk about that, it just means you don't have to start them. They could come in the 60th minute, play 30 minutes, and they're professionals. They'll be ready to go on Tuesday. But I would like to see a little bit of rotation, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be for the LAFC game. And my goal for this game, Jake, is don't allow a goal in the first 30 minutes. I think that we have been showing that we have been allowing teams to just take it to us during that. And yeah, sometimes we can hold them off like we did in Colorado. But if you do that back at home, again, with these fans, you're just going to take the wind out of out of the noise out of the stadium, the wind out of the sails, whatever the hell you want to say. Do not let us go down in the first 30 minutes. We shouldn't be on the back foot either. I'd like to be more specific and say, can we take it to them in the first 30 minutes, win those first 30 minutes, and then just get to half? And then we'll see how the second half goes. But I would really like to see us do that there. But Jake, ultimately, I think it's going to be extremely hard to take this team and keep them off the board. I think with their attacking presence, I think they're going to be pissed off with how things have been going. I'm actually going to predict a 3-1 L. I do not like predicting L's, but this team, they are much better than the form that they've been playing recently. So it's either, are they going to match where they should be in their form, or they're going to keep falling? And I think that with that attacking presence, knowing that we still have somewhat of a leaky defense, I think Denny Bouanga could slice us open, and a ball in from Sun could be easy peasy for them. So I'm predicting a 3-1 L.
It's not often that you're more optimistic than I am. I've got a 2-2 draw on this one. And the odds are sitting at, by the way, us both predicting 4 goals is interesting, just in different manifestations. City win is at plus 170, LAFC win at plus 140, the draw at plus 260. So that's about as even as odds between us and LAFC as you're probably ever going to see, at least in the near term and in the past, at least what I've seen. I'm going back to a familiar well on this one, Justin. I'll pull up my odds because it wasn't up this morning when I was looking at this. Yep. But I really like this second half stuff that I've been doing. I didn't work out last match. I'll put my hands up. But it's been working a lot more than it hasn't. And, either that's City scoring in the second half, which is a prop you can bet on through our friends at DraftKings, or second half being the higher scoring half of the two. Both these teams are second half scoring teams. I feel very good about placing a wager on that.
No, I like that as well. And Jake, I'm just going to be fully negative and just say that I'm trying to, when it comes to betting, you sometimes have to bet with your head, not your heart. And I'm going to bet on a Denny Bouanga anytime goal at plus 105. I hate saying it, Jake. I absolutely do, but listen to the stats. His last 5 matches versus City, he has 6 goals, scoring 3 in 2024 and 3 in 2025. I don't think we're going to keep him off the score sheet for all of 2026. And yes, we already played them once and he did not score there. So I think he's going to score in this game. And I do think that again, I think this is a bounce back game for that team. I hate to say it, but if you're just like if you take us out of the equation, take your heart out of it, and just say, if you're scrolling MLS games, you're like, wow, LAFC is coming into St. Louis after like having that hot start. They're pissed off about how everything that just went down in Champions Cup. I think they have a chance to try to steamroll us. And I really hope I'm wrong. I really do. But maybe this is like a little emotional hedge. Denny Bouanga gets a goal. We're there in person. I cash a bet, but then maybe we come back and either I cash the bet and then we lose the game and I make some money and we lose, or maybe then we can come back from that goal as well. So that's just where I'm at on it.
The art of the emotional hedge. No, I love it. Yeah, I mentioned the second half tendencies from both teams. We score 70% of our goal output this season has been from second half, from the 46-minute on, 30% in that first 15 and another 30 in the last 15. So we're really heavy on both kind of sides of the second half. They are very heavy on the back part of the second half. They've scored 45% of their goals in the final 30 minutes. So again, this game's going to have a lot of fireworks, a lot of life up into the bell rings, the whistle blows. So do not leave that seat early. It's going to be fun. So, I mean, it's always a really cool opportunity to stack yourself up against a good opponent, regardless of what they're going through right now. And for us, we've been in some form of making history, whether for good or for worse. This season, we made some history last weekend, beating Colorado for the first time in Colorado. That's good. Can we take that momentum? We've been asking for momentum all season and apply it here to LAFC and get this kind of run of games started off in a good way, Justin, because I think, again, a good run to end this stretch brings a lot of positivity, a lot of hope into a long World Cup break, which then hopefully gets the team bolstered during that time period as well, and gets you kind of a new season where you're right in the mixer with the rest of the bubble teams and kind of fringe teams.
Yeah, and Jake, I'm going to say it's going to be kind of odd to say, but this is a fun time to be a City fan in the next 10 days, because guess what? We have 3 of our final 4 games are at home. We have LAFC, then we go to DC, but then we're back home for Houston and Austin. So if you're not doing anything, this is Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. The high on Wednesday is 72 degrees. It's going to be a nice night in St. Louis and sunny. get down there and go to the LAFC game. And while you're there, get there a little bit earlier and meet us at the pitch. It's been a while since we've been at the pitch, Jake, and I am so excited to get back. I need to send Jenny a text, but we'll be in our front left booth. Come up to us, enjoy a little drink, a little food before you go into the stadium and watch us take on LAFC.
Love it. Well, again, you'll be seeing a lot of us over the next 1 to 2 weeks here, and then more of us as World Cup kind of gets spun up here. But in the meantime, Justin, brace up. We're all for City.
All for City.